This year, the Board of Directors of the National Child Labor Committee has decided to add a new award. We have named that award after one of this country's true private sector pioneers in this arena, a man who led one of the nation's leading corporations, Xerox, for almost a decade through most of the 1980s, and who made education a top theme of that company's public commitment. A man who later served as Deputy Secretary of Education, crossing that aisle in the early 1990s during the administration of President George H.W. Bush, and who forged primary public-private educational partnerships which last to this day. A man who before, during, and after his corporate and government leadership has remained a constant and brilliant voice for educational improvement and expansion, David T. Kearns. Perhaps no one has had the nonpartisan impact that David has had on education. We're very pleased to initiate the David T. Kearns Award for Excellence and Innovation in Education tonight. Now applause. David, who has been a longtime friend of National Child Labor Committee, could not himself be with us tonight, but to help us with the inaugural presentation of this honor, I'm very glad to introduce a longtime colleague of David's and someone who has himself devoted considerable energy and commitment to the field of education. Please let me introduce the president of the Xerox Foundation, a longtime friend himself of the National Child Labor Committee, and a sitting judge for the Lewis Hine Award, Joe Cahalan. Joe.
Thanks, Eric. This is really a big, big thrill for me. I did work very, very closely with David Kearns for about 15 years at Xerox. And this is a little depressing in some ways, but I was thinking, I was stuck in traffic coming here tonight, so I had a lot of time to think. And I helped him write a book that I think we published in 1985 called Winning the Brain Race. And it was about the very same subject we're talking about again in 2011. So maybe it's just I think it is a continuous subject about trying to improve our schools and to make our society very inclusive and to make sure that everybody has a chance to participate in the American dream. So I'm thrilled to represent David. When Jeff Newman asked me to do this, I called David and chatted with him for a few minutes and asked him what I should say on his behalf. And in typical David fashion, he's a man of few words, but he's very, very thoughtful. He said, "Let me call you back in 30 minutes. And so I waited by the phone patiently, and he called me back, and he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to say 5 things. 1, tell everybody how important the work of the National Child Labor Committee is and what a wonderful idea the Lewis Hine Awards are. 2, tell everyone how proud I am to stand with them and how proud I am to have this award named after me. 3, tell Jeff Newman, I'm only going to tell you this, Jeff, I love him and I wish I was there to give him a big hug. 4, tell all the award winners I salute them and admire the work they do for our children. And 5th, tell Vincent May that I am humbled by the contributions he is making in educating our children here in the United States and around the globe. Vincent May, who will be up here in just a second, has had a brilliant business career. His achievements in the private sector, and currently as chairman of AEA Investments, are more than enough to count as a very, very well-lived life. But there's so much more. You'll read about it in the brochure if you haven't already. But let me say just a couple of words. Vincent May has always taken the time, he's always made the time to lend his extraordinary leadership skills to help make this world a better place. I just love the fact that he grew up in South Africa, and as a young college student, I didn't get a chance to compare notes, but I was a freedom rider in Selma, Alabama in the early 60s, and I think at about that time, Vincent was part of the anti-apartheid Progressive Federal Party in South Africa, fighting apartheid. And he's never forgotten those South African roots. I think it also says a lot about this man that he currently works and has worked for most of his life very, very hard for his 2 alma maters back in South Africa. The Gray School, which again, I didn't get a chance to compare notes, but I take it that's a bit of like our prep schools and the University of Cape Town, where he has lent enormous energy and money to make scholarships available and to help integrate those schools and bring everybody along. And I think it says a lot about somebody that never forgets from whence they came and extends a helping hand back. He served with distinction on a wide variety of boards in this country that run the gamut from the Juilliard School of Music, over there, I think, to the Council on Foreign Relations, over there, I think, both here in New York, but a wide variety of philanthropic efforts. But his passion, I think, and his love, and the reason why he stands out for this award tonight, is that he has done legendary work on behalf of children as a member of the board of Sesame Street since 1994, and chairman of that board for the last 6 years. Back to South Africa again, one of his projects that he had Sesame Street undertake was a show for South Africa that features, I think the character is Kami, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but a young boy in South Africa who's HIV positive. And that Muppet character in the Sesame Street show back there has done wonders to break the code of silence that surrounds AIDS anywhere in the world, unfortunately, but particularly in Africa and South Africa. Here at home, closer to home, he has used his position at Sesame Street to advance what the workshop does and what the TV program has done to tackle such things as childhood obesity and fostering better health habits for our young people, to fighting illiteracy and making sure that all children read. It's such a key to learning, and as he describes it, it's not just an end in itself, but it's the bridge to learning. It's not just to learn to read, but to read to learn, as Vincent would articulate it. And more recently, to help children grieve and deal with the death of a loved one, particularly parents of children who have lost a parent to war in Afghanistan or Iraq. So just an extraordinary man, an extraordinary legacy. He has literally helped millions of our young people mainstream and get a foothold and get off to a good start in life. And for that, on behalf of the National Child Labor Committee and the Lewis Hine Award, I am thrilled on behalf of David Kearns to give this first award in his name to Vincent May.
Thank you, Joe, for those very, very kind words. And it's indeed a big, big honor for me and a privilege to be here to accept this award from the National Child Labor Committee, but also to do so in the name of David Kearns, somebody I have admired from afar for a long time, not only for his outstanding leadership of the Xerox Corporation, but for all the work that he's done in education, and really has changed the lives of many, many people. I also want to say that it's a great privilege to share the stage with the 10 of you here, because when I read your stories, you realize that you're called unheralded heroes, but you really are heroes in your communities, because we all know that every community in this country needs people who are really committed and engaged day to day with children. That's where the real difference gets made. And you need people who are passionate and committed and idealistic to do that. And it's a privilege to share the stage with you. As Joe mentioned, I grew up in South Africa during apartheid South Africa. I was the beneficiary of a remarkably good education as a privileged white person. So I went to a very, very good junior school and a very good high school and a very good university. But I also saw when I was growing up that there were two educational systems, one for people like myself and a very, very inadequate one for the vast majority of children. And you really didn't have to be smart to realize firstly, just what a crippling thing it was for the country, but also how unfair it was. And so I decided that one of the things that I wanted to do was just to devote myself to education and really giving equal opportunity to children. I have found that any kid where you give the opportunity, they will take it and they will thrive. And so lost lives as a result of inadequate education is absolutely an unacceptable thing, because we have the tools at our disposal if we have the commitment to make the changes. It has been my great privilege, as Joe mentioned, to serve on the board of Sesame Workshop, to be its chairman for the last 7 years. Gary Nell, the chief executive of Sesame, is here this evening. But the work that I've seen the Sesame people do, totally committed to great research, to understanding how you take a message and you deliver it to the maximum number of children in a way that they learn not only to read and write and do arithmetic at a very early age, but that they also learn life skills. And Joe touched on some of the things that cover the Sesame spectrum. But the ability to do this on a mass basis through the medium of television has been just a revelation to me, and I feel the privilege has been mine working with people of such quality and such dedication. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's not only in the United States that Sesame is working, but actually in over 100 countries that these programs are featured around the world. And what they're doing is giving children the opportunity to learn the basic skills at those pivotal ages, up to the age of 7. Because once they get past 7, if they have those skills, they can really take that and have full lives, productive lives, fulfilled lives. And the burden is on all of us to help them do that. And shame on us if we don't. So I'm deeply honored. I feel just a small part of a wonderful organization. As I say, I'm truly honored to be sharing the stage with such a remarkable group of people. So thank you very much, and thank you, David Kearns, for everything you've done for education during your very productive and remarkable life. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Vincent, and thank you, and Sesame Workshop, Gary Nell and Joan Gans-Cooney, for all you've done and continue to do to serve our children. Can we give one more round of applause for our special recipients tonight, Stephen Spahn and Vincent Miller?